Hello everyone. Before we delve into today's episode, I know many of you use these videos to help you sleep. I want to express my gratitude to everyone who supports us by liking and sharing our content. Please take a moment to say hello and leave a comment, letting us know where in the world you're tuning in from. Your engagement is truly appreciated and contributes to making this channel stand out. If you're new to our channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button and turning on the notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. And now, take a moment to relax, turn off the lights, and let's get started. I was on EMT duty and during the brutal 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift. We picked up our rig and received instructions to post in a desolate part of town, devoid of life except for the eerie shadows that lurked in its dimly lit corners. I chose to park behind the abandoned shopping center, where the skeletons of closed businesses loomed over us like silent sentinels of a forgotten era. As the sun threatened to break the horizon, casting a feeble light upon the decrepit landscape, my partner and I sought solace in the temporary respite of sleep. My partner, seemingly impervious to the unsettling ambience, reclined in the front cabin while I retreated to the cramped confines of the ambulance's rear, hoping to find some semblance of peace amidst the chaos. However, the solitude was short-lived. Just as the veil of sleep began to descend upon me, my partner's urgent voice shattered the silence, pulling me back into the chilling reality of our surroundings. "Hey dude, you awake?" he whispered, his tone tinged with an unmistakable sense of unease. I acknowledged him groggily, my senses on high alert as I scanned the darkness beyond the confines of our makeshift sanctuary. His words hung in the air like a sinister omen as I followed his gaze towards a shadowy figure lurking in the distance. A solitary silhouette, shrouded in darkness, stood motionless, its presence a palpable menace in the stillness of the night. I felt a shiver creep down my spine as I watched, my heart pounding in my chest with a primal sense of dread. Minutes stretched into eternity as we remained locked in a silent standoff with the mysterious stranger. Their intentions remained unclear, hidden behind the veil of darkness that cloaked their form. Yet, their unwavering gaze bore into us with an intensity that sent a chill racing down my spine. Just as we began to entertain the notion of retreating into the safety of the ambulance, the figure vanished into the shadows, leaving behind only the echo of their unsettling presence. We breathed a collective sigh of relief, dismissing the encounter as nothing more than a trick of the mind brought on by the exhaustion of the night. But our reprieve was short-lived. In the dead of night, as the world slumbered in oblivious ignorance, she returned. Emerging from the depths of darkness like a specter of nightmares, she stood before us, a haunting vision clad in black. Her eyes, twin orbs of darkness, bore into our souls with an intensity that defied explanation. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end as her gaze pierced through the veil of night, locking us in a silent battle of wills. My partner's voice trembled with fear as he pleaded for escape, his terror palpable in the suffocating silence of the night. Yet, I remained frozen, unable to tear my gaze away from the enigmatic figure that stood before us. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, I leaped into action, scrambling over the cramped confines of the ambulance in a desperate bid for freedom. The air was thick with the taste of fear as I fought to navigate the narrow confines of our sanctuary, each movement a frantic dance with death. As the engine roared to life beneath my trembling hands, I felt a surge of relief wash over me, drowning out the deafening roar of my pounding heart. With one final glance at the spectral figure that lingered in the darkness, I slammed my foot down on the accelerator, leaving behind the haunting memories of that fateful night. But as the distant lights of civilization faded into the rearview mirror, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had narrowly escaped something far more sinister than mere mortal danger. In the cold light of day, the memory of her haunting gaze lingered like a shadow upon my soul, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked in the darkness beyond. It was a restless night, one that would etch its memory into the recesses of my mind, leaving me with more questions than answers. As a police officer in a city teeming with around 30,000 souls, my duties often led me down dark alleys and into the hidden corners of human experience. But nothing could have prepared me for the chilling encounter that awaited me on that fateful night. Approximately a week ago, as the clock struck the witching hour, I received a call that would send shivers down my spine. A teenage girl, her voice trembling with fear, reported an attempted break-in at her family's residence. With a sense of urgency coursing through my veins, I activated my lights and sirens, racing through the deserted streets to reach her side. Arriving at the house nestled in the wealthiest part of town, I found myself standing before an opulent facade, a stark contrast to the darkness lurking within. The girl, barely out of her teens, greeted me with wide eyes filled with equal parts terror and desperation. Her story unfolded in fragments, each word punctuated by the pounding of my heart. She recounted the events of the evening with a sense of disbelief, as if even she could not comprehend the horrors that had unfolded within the confines of her own home. Pounding on doors, screaming in the dead of night, each detail painted a picture of a nightmare too vivid to ignore. With my sergeant by my side, we listened intently as the girl poured out her fears, her voice trembling with every word. Yet, despite her frantic pleas for help, there was no sign of the intruder she claimed had terrorized her. As we scoured the area for clues, our efforts yielded nothing but silence, a silence that seemed to echo with the weight of unspoken horrors lurking just beyond the edge of perception. No footprints in the dew-laden grass, no signs of forced entry, just an empty void staring back at us from the darkness. Frustration gnawed at the edges of my consciousness as we searched in vain for any shred of evidence to corroborate the girl's claims. But as the minutes turned to hours, it became increasingly clear that we were chasing shadows in the night. With a heavy heart and a sense of unease gnawing at my soul, we reluctantly left the girl to her own devices, hoping against hope that she would find solace in the light of day. Little did I know that our encounter was far from over, and that the true horrors of the night had yet to reveal themselves. 3 hours passed in a blur of restless anticipation, each moment dragging by like an eternity as we awaited the inevitable call back to the girl's residence. And when it came, it was with a sense of dread that I returned to the scene of our earlier encounter, my heart pounding in my chest like a drumbeat of impending doom. As I arrived at the house once more, I was greeted by the sight of my partner, her expression grim as she relayed the girl's frantic pleas for help. With a sense of urgency that bordered on desperation, I wasted no time in entering the house, my senses on high alert for any sign of danger. Inside, the air hung heavy with the weight of unspoken horrors, each shadow a potential harbinger of doom lurking just beyond the edge of perception. With my hand resting uneasily on the grip of my firearm, I made my way through the darkened corridors, my heart pounding in my chest with every step. As we searched the house for any sign of the intruder, a sense of unease settled over me like a shroud, suffocating me with its oppressive weight. It was as if the very walls themselves were alive with a malevolent energy, their whispers echoing in the silence of the night. Descending into the depths of the basement, I felt a chill run down my spine, a primal instinct warning me of unseen dangers lurking just beyond the reach of my senses. With every shadow, every creak of the floorboards, I felt as though I was being watched, studied by eyes that saw into the very depths of my soul. And then, as if emerging from the depths of a nightmare, I stumbled upon a sight that would haunt me for nights to come, a Ouija board, its eerie presence casting a pall over the room like a specter of unseen terrors. It was a chilling reminder that the horrors of the night were far from over, and that the true depths of darkness had yet to be revealed. With a sense of trepidation gnawing at my soul, we made our way through the rest of the house, our senses on high alert for any sign of danger lurking in the shadows. But despite our best efforts, there was no sign of the intruder, no trace of the horrors that had plagued the girl's nightmares. As we left the house once more, a sense of relief washed over me like a wave, momentarily soothing the frayed edges of my nerves. But deep down, I knew that our encounter with the unknown was far from over, and that the true horrors of the night had yet to reveal themselves. In the days that followed, I found myself haunted by the memory of that fateful night, the echoes of its terrors reverberating through the corridors of my mind like a ghostly whisper in the darkness. And as I lay awake in the dead of night, I couldn't help but wonder what other horrors lurked in the shadows, waiting to be unleashed upon an unsuspecting world. This isn't your run-of-the-mill spooky tale. This is the real deal, something that happened to me during one of my shifts as an EMT. Hollow Hill Road isn't your typical suburban street. It's remote, isolated, and shrouded in mystery. Locals whisper about strange happenings in the area, tales of ghostly apparitions and things that go bump in the night. But being the seasoned EMT that I am, I never paid much attention to those stories. That is, until that fateful night. It was a routine shift, or so I thought, until we received a distress call from a farmhouse at the end of Hollow Hill Road. The caller, a frantic woman, claimed her elderly father had fallen and was unresponsive. Without hesitation, my partner and I sped off towards the farmhouse, our ambulance slicing through the darkness like a beacon of hope in the night. As we neared our destination, an oppressive sense of dread settled over me like a suffocating blanket. It felt like we were being watched, scrutinized by unseen eyes that lurked in the shadows. Nevertheless, we pressed on, our sense of duty overriding any apprehension we may have felt. Upon arrival, we were greeted by the woman, her face etched with fear and desperation. Inside the farmhouse, the air was thick with an otherworldly chill, and a sense of unease gnawed at the pit of my stomach. The scene before us was straight out of a horror movie, an elderly man lying motionless on the floor, illuminated by the flickering glow of a lone candle. As I began to assess the man's condition, strange things started happening. Objects moved on their own, shadows danced across the walls, and whispers echoed through the halls. It was like something out of a nightmare, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were in grave danger. But the worst was yet to come. In the corner of the room, I caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure, its form flickering in and out of existence like a wisp of smoke. My blood ran cold, and every instinct screamed at me to run, to flee from whatever malevolent force lurked within the farmhouse. Yet, despite the terror that gripped my heart, my partner and I soldiered on, determined to fulfill our duty to the elderly man. But as we prepared to transport him to the hospital, a bone-chilling wail pierced the silence, freezing us in our tracks. It was the woman, her cries of anguish echoing through the night, a haunting lament for our father's fate. With a sense of urgency, we whisked the elderly man away, leaving behind the darkness that lurked within the farmhouse's walls. But as we drove off into the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had merely scratched the surface of a much deeper mystery, one that would continue to haunt me long after we had left Hollow Hill Road behind. Now, you might be thinking this sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, but I can assure you, it's all too real. This is the kind of stuff that EMTs deal with on a daily basis, the unseen dangers that lurk in the shadows, waiting to ensnare the unwary in their web of terror. So, the next time you find yourself driving down a dark, deserted road, remember the tale of the haunting of Hollow Hill Road. And if you ever hear a strange noise in the dead of night, don't ignore it. You never know what horrors may be lurking just beyond the darkness, waiting to claim their next victim.